Gracie's new ranch horse.
Okay. He's really
Everything
head shy.
feels calm at Heartland, until one unexpected visitor arrives and shatters that peace. A familiar face with a dark past steps back onto the ranch, carrying anger, secrets, and a dangerous plan. And from the moment he appears, you can feel something is about to go terribly wrong. The episode opens with a quiet morning at Heartland. The sun rises over the fields, the horses graze peacefully, and for a moment, everything seems normal. But this calm is only the silence before a storm. We see Jack moving around the barn, doing his usual chores, unaware that someone from his past is about to return and bring chaos with him. Inside the house, Amy is preparing for the day, talking softly to Lindy about the training session she has planned. There's warmth in the room, a sense of family and safety. But that feeling begins to fade when a truck pulls into the driveway. The sound is sharp, unexpected, almost out of place. Jack stops what he's doing. He knows that sound isn't from anyone local. He steps outside slowly, his eyes narrowed, trying to see who has come so early. The truck door slams, and out steps Wes. The moment his boots hit the ground, the atmosphere changes. It's heavy, tense, and filled with unspoken history. Wes doesn't look like someone passing through. He looks like someone with a mission. His expression is cold, hardened, and full of something that makes Jack's stomach tighten. Resentment. Jack walks toward him, calm but guarded. He has dealt with Wes before, and none of those encounters ended well. Wes gives a half smirk, the kind that shows he didn't come for a friendly visit. He says he just wants to talk, but his tone makes it clear this talk won't be simple. Amy watches from a distance, feeling uneasy, because she remembers exactly what Wes has done in the past. She remembers the danger he once brought into their lives. Wes starts asking questions about Ty, about Amy, about things that are none of his business. Jack replies carefully, keeping himself steady, but it's obvious Wes is here for more than answers. He steps closer, invading Jack's space, hinting that he has unfinished business with the Heartland family. Jack keeps his voice controlled, warning him subtly to stay away. But Wes only smiles in a way that feels threatening. Amy can sense the tension rising and steps out to stand beside Jack. Wes's eyes shift to her, and for a moment, the past comes rushing back, the trouble, the intimidation, the danger. Amy's heart beats faster, but she stays strong. She knows she can't show fear in front of someone like him. The camera cuts between their faces, Jack's protective glare, Amy's quiet strength, and Wes's growing anger. The episode wants us to feel the danger building, and it works. By the time Wes finally walks away, promising he'll be around, the peaceful morning is long gone. In its place is a sense of dread that something terrible is coming. This opening of the episode sets the stage for the chaos, heartbreak, and confrontation that will shake the entire Heartland family. From the moment Wes disappears down the driveway, a shadow seems to settle over Heartland. Jack watches the dust rise behind the truck, and for the first time in a long while, he feels truly uneasy. This isn't a man who just stopped by. This is someone who came with a purpose. And that purpose is trouble. Inside the barn, the horses sense the shift too. They pace, snort, and shuffle nervously, as if they can feel the storm building before the humans do. Amy tries to calm them, running her hand gently along a horse's neck, but even she can't shake the tightness in her chest. Wes returning after all these years means only one thing: he wants something. And whatever that is, it won't bring peace. Later that afternoon, Amy heads out to work with a young, anxious horse. Usually, being around horses brings her comfort, but today her focus slips. She keeps glancing toward the road, worried that Wes might suddenly show up again. The past is never easy to face, and Wes is a painful reminder of a time when she constantly had to look over her shoulder. When she tries to breathe deeply and steady herself, the horse spooks, reacting to the tension she's carrying inside. Amy whispers reassuringly, but her mind is somewhere else entirely. Meanwhile, Lou arrives home from a meeting and instantly senses something is wrong. Jack tells her about Wes's visit, his face tight with concern. Lou's reaction is immediate fear mixed with protective anger. She remembers everything Wes did to Amy, to Ty, and to the ranch. She doesn't want that kind of darkness anywhere near their family again. Lou worries about Jack most of all. She knows how stubborn he can be, how he always tries to handle problems alone. As the day goes on, strange things begin to happen around the ranch. Tools are misplaced. A gate that Jack knows he closed is suddenly open. Tire tracks appear where no one should be driving. Amy tries to brush it off as coincidence, but Jack knows better. Wes is lurking, watching, waiting, and the worst part is, they can't prove anything. Even Georgie, who returns from training later that evening, notices the tension as soon as she steps inside. She asks what's going on, but everyone avoids giving her the full truth. They don't want to worry her, not when she already has so much pressure on her shoulders. But even without the details, she can feel the shift. Heartland doesn't feel like home tonight. It feels like a place bracing itself for something bad. Around sunset, Jack steps outside for some air. He takes long, steady breaths, trying to calm the knot in his stomach. But as he stands there, he hears something, a quiet crunch of footsteps behind the barn. Jack turns his head slowly, every instinct telling him to stay alert. For a moment, everything is still. Then he sees it, a shadow moving where no one should be. He calls out, but no one answers. Jack starts to walk toward the sound, but the shadow slips away into the darkness. This confirms that Wes is back at Heartland, and he's not done. This is only the beginning of the danger he's about to bring. Night settles over Heartland like a heavy blanket, but there's nothing peaceful about it. The wind feels colder, the sky darker, and the ranch completely still, as if even nature is holding its breath. Jack finishes locking up the barn, double-checking every latch and door. Ever since that shadow slipped away earlier, he's been on edge. And even though he tells himself he's being cautious, deep down he knows the truth. Wes is still out there. Jack starts walking back toward the house, his boots crunching softly in the gravel. The porch light glows in the distance, warm and inviting, but the space between him and that door feels unusually long. Halfway across the yard, he hears the faint sound of footsteps behind him. Slow, intentional. Jack freezes for a moment, then turns, expecting to catch someone moving in the dark. Nothing, but the silence is too sharp to be real. Jack calls out, his voice steady but stern, warning whoever is there that he isn't afraid. Only the wind answers him. He sighs, begins to turn back toward the house. And that's when it happens. A hand grabs Jack's shoulder with violent force and spins him around. Before he can react, Wes is right in front of him, eyes wild, breathing heavy, anger burning through him like fire. Jack barely gets a word out before Wes shoves him hard, sending him stumbling backward. The attack comes fast, fueled by bitterness and rage that's been building inside Wes for years. Wes shouts at Jack, accusing him of ruining his life, of turning everyone against him, of taking everything he ever cared about. His voice cracks with pure hatred. Jack tries to calm him down, tries to reason with him, but Wes isn't listening. He throws another punch, and this one lands. Jack stumbles but stays on his feet, refusing to let Wes see him afraid. The noise breaks through the silence of the house. Amy hears the crash, followed by Wes's angry voice. She rushes outside, calling for Jack, but what she sees stops her cold. Wes standing inches from Jack, fists clenched, ready to strike again. Without thinking, Amy shouts his name, and for a brief moment, Wes hesitates, but that hesitation quickly turns into something worse. Wes steps toward Amy, yelling that she ruined everything, that her life moved on while his fell apart. Jack lunges forward, putting himself between them, and this only fuels Wes's rage. He grabs Jack by the collar and slams him against the side of the barn. The impact makes Jack gasp, but he doesn't back down. Even in danger, he stands tall, protecting his family. Amy runs toward the house, screaming for help. Her voice shakes, full of fear, because she knows what Wes is capable of. Lou bursts out next, panic written across her face, with Georgie close behind. The moment Georgie sees what's happening, she freezes Wes attacking Jack, Jack struggling to push him off. The ranch exploding into chaos. The tension hits its peak when Wes pulls back his arm for one final blow. But before he can strike, someone grabs him from behind. It's Tim, fierce, angry, and not about to let Wes hurt his family again. A struggle breaks out, and Jack finally slips free while Tim pins Wes to the ground. The shouting, the fear, the sound of bodies hitting the dirt, it all fills the night. Amy trembles as she watches, unable to believe how fast things spiraled. Georgie covers her mouth, tears in her eyes. Lou keeps whispering Jack's name, terrified he's hurt. By the time Wes is finally restrained, the damage is clear. Jack's face is bruised, his body shaken, and the piece of Heartland has been shattered beyond repair. The attack isn't just physical, it's a warning. And everyone knows this is far from over. While the chaos of the attack sends shockwaves across Heartland, Georgie faces a storm of her own, one that hits her heart harder than anything she's prepared for. The house is buzzing with fear and voices when she steps inside, but Georgie feels strangely distant, almost numb. She keeps glancing at Jack, wanting to run to him, to make sure he's truly all right, but something else weighs heavily on her. Just hours before Wes attacked Jack, Georgie received a message she hasn't told anyone about yet. A message she didn't want to believe. A message from Quinn. She had been expecting a call from him for days, something simple, something reassuring. Instead, she got a short text. No warmth, no explanation. Just a few cold words saying they needed to talk soon, followed by a confession she never saw coming. Quinn had made a decision overseas, one that didn't include her. A decision that changes everything. As Georgie stands at the edge of the living room, hearing Lou and Amy trying to comfort Jack, she feels completely invisible. No one knows what she's holding inside, and she doesn't dare speak it out loud. Her throat feels tight, like saying the words will make them real. She backs away quietly, slipping into her room before anyone notices her shaking hands. When she shuts her door, the weight finally crashes down. Georgie sits on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone screen, rereading the message over and over until the words blur. Quinn isn't coming back. At least, not in the way she hoped. And just like that, the future she built in her mind, training together, competing, growing side by side, shatters. Her heart starts to ache in a way she hasn't felt since she first lost trust in people. She presses a hand to her chest, trying to breathe through the pain. It feels unfair. Everything she has worked for, sacrificed for, believed in. Suddenly it all feels unstable. The dream of the Olympics, the path she fought for so fiercely, now mixes with the fear that she'll have to walk it alone. From her window, Georgie hears the muffled voices of her family outside. She sees Jack sitting on the porch, holding an ice pack to his cheek, Amy with her hand on his shoulder. They're wounded too, shaken by Wes's attack, but at least they're together. Georgie, though surrounded by family, feels painfully alone. Her thoughts spiral. If Quinn really cared, why would he decide anything without talking to her? Why was she always the one waiting, always the one hoping? Has she been holding on to something that was already fading? A tear finally escapes, then another, until she's crying into her hands silently, trying not to break down completely. She wants to tell Amy, to tell Lou, to just collapse into someone's arms. But she doesn't want to add more pain to a night already overflowing with fear. So she stays silent. The heartbreak grows heavier when she remembers their last video call. Quinn's smile, his encouragement, the way he told her she was his future. Those words feel empty now, replaced by a pit in her stomach and doubts she can't push away. As she wipes her tears, Georgie forces herself to stand. She looks in the mirror at her red, swollen eyes. She whispers to herself, "You're strong. You can handle this." But even she doesn't fully believe it. Outside, life is falling apart because of Wes. Inside her heart, things are falling apart too because of Quinn. And as the night goes on, Georgie realizes something heartbreaking. Growing up doesn't always mean chasing your dreams. Sometimes, it means learning how to survive when the people you love break your heart. The night after the attack feels heavier than anything Heartland has faced in a long time. The ranch, usually filled with warmth and laughter, now carries an unsettling silence. It's the kind of silence that sits on everyone's shoulders, pressing down, refusing to let anyone rest. Even the horses seem calmer than usual, as if they're trying to understand why the people they love feel so broken. Inside the house, Jack sits on the couch with an ice pack against his bruised cheek. The swelling is worse now, and the pain has settled deep into his bones, but that isn't what troubles him most. What really weighs on him is the look he saw in Amy's eyes when she ran outside. Fear. It wasn't just fear for him, but fear that the past was coming back to tear their family apart. Amy sits beside him, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hasn't taken a sip of. Every few seconds, her eyes move to the door, as if she expects Wes to walk through it again. Her mind keeps replaying those moments, Wes's voice echoing through the yard, Jack being slammed into the barn wall, the look of hatred in Wes's eyes. Even now, hours later, her heart still beats too fast. Lou, usually the strongest voice in the room, is pacing back and forth. She keeps checking the windows, making sure they're locked, even though she's already checked them a dozen times. She tries to hide her worry for the sake of the others, but her trembling hands tell the truth. She can protect her business, her daughters, her plans, but when it comes to sudden violence, she feels completely powerless. Tim stands near the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. He hasn't spoken much since he pulled Wes off Jack. His breaths are slow and controlled, but inside he's boiling. Every protective instinct in him is burning hot, and the fact that Wes got so close to hurting Jack, his oldest friend, gnaws at him. Tim knows men like Wes, men who don't stop when you push them away, men who come back. What none of them know is that Georgie is upstairs, curled up with her knees pulled to her chest, silently crying again. She can hear faint voices below, Lou's anxious footsteps, Amy whispering to Jack, Tim muttering under his breath. The whole family is hurting, each carrying their own fear. But Georgie feels like she's carrying two storms at once, the attack shaking the ranch, and the heartbreak tearing at her chest. She wants to go downstairs, to hug Jack and tell him she's glad he's safe. But she's afraid she'll break down the moment she sees him bruised and tired. Her heart is already fragile, and tonight's events feel like too much. So she stays in her room, trying to piece herself back together in the dark. As the hours pass, the house becomes quieter. Tim finally leaves the doorway and checks the perimeter of the ranch one more time. Lou sits beside Jack and tries to convince him to see a doctor. He refuses, insisting he's fine, but the exhaustion in his voice betrays him. Amy leans her head against his shoulder and whispers, "We're not letting him hurt us again." Jack wants to believe her, but something deep inside warns him that Wes isn't finished. Later, when the lights are out and everyone tries to sleep, the true aftermath begins. Amy lies awake, thinking about how close she came to losing Jack. Lou stares at the ceiling, wondering if she should call the police again. Tim sits outside on the porch, unwilling to rest while danger still lingers. And Georgie wipes her face with her sleeve, wishing she could escape both her heartbreak and the terror of the night. Heartland has always been a place of healing, of second chances, of hope. But tonight, the ranch feels fragile, exposed, wounded. Wes didn't just attack Jack. He cracked something inside the whole family, and all of them can feel it. The next morning arrives with a pale, cold light that stretches across Heartland like a quiet warning. Nothing feels settled. Nothing feels safe. The sun rises, but it doesn't bring warmth. It only reveals the bruises, the fear, and the cracks left behind from the night before. The family moves around the ranch slowly, each person carrying the weight of what happened. Each one hoping but not fully believing that Wes might finally be gone. Jack sits on the porch with a cup of coffee, though he barely drinks it. The bruise on his cheek has darkened, and every breath seems to remind him of the hit he took. Still, his eyes keep scanning the land, the fields, the road, the tree line. Every corner he's memorized in his lifetime now feels like a place where danger could hide. Jack has always been the pillar of Heartland, the steady force that holds everyone together. But this morning, even he feels the small tremble of uncertainty inside. Amy tries to pretend she's fine, but her hands shake when she pours cereal for Lindy. She forces a smile, hoping her daughter won't notice the fear sitting in her mother's eyes. Amy keeps glancing out the window, expecting that same truck to appear at any moment. The memory of Wes's voice, sharp and hateful, keeps echoing in her head. She knows this isn't over, not with someone like him. Wes doesn't leave loose ends. Lou sits at the kitchen table with her phone, debating whether to call the police again. She knows they can file a report, maybe increase patrols, but deep down she fears it won't be enough. Wes is unpredictable, and that makes him dangerous. She keeps replaying the attack in her mind. Jack being thrown against the barn, Amy screaming for help, Tim dragging Wes off the ground. Lou clenches her jaw, wishing she could go back in time and stop all of it before it began. Outside, Tim inspects the barn, looking for any sign that Wes returned during the night. At first, everything seems normal. The doors are shut. The tools are in place. But then he sees something that stops him cold, a fresh boot print in the dirt, right near the side wall. Deep, sharp, too new to be from yesterday. Tim doesn't call out. He doesn't want to panic the family. Instead, he studies the tracks closely. The size, the depth, the direction, and everything in him knows exactly what this means. Wes came back, and he came back after everyone was asleep. Meanwhile, Georgie finally emerges from her room. Her eyes are tired, her face pale, and her heart heavy from everything she cried out the night before. She walks downstairs silently, hoping no one notices the pain hiding underneath her long breaths. She sits beside Jack, laying a gentle hand on his arm. He smiles at her softly, and for a moment, Georgie feels a small piece of comfort.